Categorization. Going deeper into the categorization, we have an HTML element. Might be a div. Now, that HTML element exists with any number of HTML elements that might be on the page. But what is this div doing? What is it doing that's different from all the other elements that are on this page? And what is the CSS that I have to write to style this div to do what I want to do? So when it comes to categorization, I identified 5 categories. The beginning of which is base styles. So base styles are just your regular element selectors. So nothing else, no classes, no IDs, just element selectors. So this might be your CSS resets, might be your normalize. How many people here use a CSS reset? Good crowd of you. How many of you use normalize? Probably pretty much the same hands. So for those who didn't see the audience on the live chat and watching online and watching this video afterwards, the vast majority of people use a CSS reset. And so when you see that, recognizing that all that CSS is creating that foundation for everything else to be built on. So yeah, there are element selectors, there's CSS resets, or your normalize. Now, personally, I tend to keep my base styles very minimal. And when I say minimal, I don't use normalize, I don't use CSS resets. I invite you at the end of your project to go back if you are using a CSS reset and delete it and see what changes. I've actually seen projects where nothing has changed. If I can delete CSS and nothing changes, I don't need it. What will likely happen, there's usually, when I say I don't use CSS resets, I keep a very minimal style sheet. Like I'll remove margin and padding from form, from body. I might set my default background color to white or whatever my page might be. But not a whole lot else. I want to keep that very clean. So yeah, definitely take a look. And I think, you know, as we go through the day, you'll probably recognize that this is kind of a recurring pattern. When you start writing CSS, it should be serving a purpose. If you have to write CSS to overwrite other CSS, that's usually a sign of inefficiency, right? A sign that we're writing code that we don't need to. So then on top of that, those base styles, we have layout styles. So layout styles, you know, if we were to take a look at something like Yahoo Mail, what are the major layout containers that we have on this page? Anybody want to throw out some names? What kind of layout sections do we have on this?
Sidebar.
Sidebar.
Header.
Header.
Navigation.
Navigation.
Main content.
Main content. That's pretty much it, right? Like there's not a whole lot to this. You know, these are the major sections. We've got header, sidebar, content, nice and easy. Take a look at another one. This is a website by Harry Roberts. And let's do this again. What sections do we have?
Header, content, sidebar.
Hey, look at that. Header, content, sidebar. Nice. Right? Like this is a fairly recurring pattern. But you'll notice that in this case, I'm not really talking about the content that's in here. I've just got these sort of groupings. I don't know, like, I'm not describing that it's an article. I'm not describing that it is a navigation necessarily. The navigation might go in the header. It might go in the sidebar. I'm not talking about callouts or anything like that. Right now, I'm just really trying to create this overall structure. And if you're thinking about responsive web design, you know, in this case where I've got the content and sidebar next to each other, maybe when I start thinking about responsive, it's the fact that these things are all linearized. I've got header, content, sidebar, footer. So you can kind of see where these major sections are and then figure out what content needs to go into each of these sections. So these are your major containing elements. There are also your grid systems. So if you're using something like 960GS or SUSE, or I'm trying to Neat, I think is another one. You know, if you're using a preprocessor, a lot of them kind of come with their own. There's a lot of plugins and add-ons and whatnot for doing grid systems. But at the end of the day, it's essentially how do you group your content, right?